Hello, everyone. Welcome to a special episode of Uncanny Treks. We are covering the second trade paperback of the Steve Orlando DC Rebirth Supergirl run. That is Volume 2, Escape from the Phantom Zone. That came out in 2017. It contains Batgirl Annual 1, even though it's a Supergirl trade. And it contains Supergirl issues 7 through 11, so a little bit less than the 7 issues we covered for our last episode on DC Rebirth Supergirl. I am Bob in Cascadia. That is Matt in the Southland. We are on Uncanny Treks. Matt, how you doing this evening?
Oh man, Bob, I am just rebirthing. I don't know.
Now you're being reborn, Matt.
I'm reborn. In the new way DC does things, Bob, they put their Batgirl comics at the beginning of their Supergirl trades.
Hey man, I've been getting pretty salty at Marvel with other stuff I've read where they're putting the extra issue or the backup at the end of the trade, even though chronologically the backup story they're putting at the end should go before the main 5 issues in the trade you're reading. So I like how DC does this. This is the right way to do it.
We appreciate that, DC. Thank you. Bob likes his Batgirl annuals at the beginning of his Supergirl comics.
If that's where they should be read, yes.
So, question, Bob, why was there not a Supergirl annual?
I don't know if there's a certain selling threshold that before it gets
Oh,
annual.
this is the Batgirl who lives in a different area in Gotham City, correct?
I think
Burnside.
so, which is Gotham's version of Brooklyn, more or less.
She lives in a borough of Gotham City, and her costume changes dramatically. It's a different look, different style.
To finish answering your question, and I'm 90% sure that I'm right, New 52 Batgirl was originally Gail Simone doing a pretty grimdark Batgirl. Then I think Cameron Stewart, who is now very canceled, and some other writers and artists relaunched in the middle of the New 52 series. They restarted Batgirl as the Girl of Burnside, and they made it a brighter, more chippy, more hipstery comic. Maybe the back third of New 52 Batgirl was Batgirl of Burnside. Then this is a relaunched rebirth Batgirl comic, and it's a different creative team. I think you're right that it's still the Batgirl of Burnside, but this is the second iteration, I think, of the Batgirl. You haven't really read much in the way of 21st century Batgirl.
I read maybe first 1 or 2 issues. It wasn't my cup of tea.
That was the same thing. I think I heard a lot of hype about the Batgirl of Burnside, and I tried it, and I was, this is really not aimed at me. That's fine. Probably a Batgirl comic shouldn't be aimed at me, a man in my 30s or 40s. Unfortunately, wasn't a big fan of the Gail Simone relaunch of Batgirl, even though I like some Gail Simone comics, but the Gail Simone Batgirl I was not a huge fan of.
Here, we're getting a team up with Supergirl.
Yeah, team up with Supergirl. My favorite panel comes early in this annual, Matt. It's on page 8. We have a Texas villain, a Texas anti-environmental villain called Red Spur, and he is irate at Batgirl and Supergirl for interrupting his plot for environmental destruction, and he calls them hippies. Then Supergirl steals his cowboy hat, all of which made me laugh, and I thought was very fun.
And he's bald, Bob, so it's even funnier.
They got a lot of virtues down in Texas, but keeping their hair is not one of those virtues.
Red Spur has a big red star on his chest.
Matt, can I make a guess at your favorite panel?
Sure, Bob, go right ahead.
So Supergirl exuberantly hugs Batgirl, causing Batgirl to spill her coffee. Is that your favorite panel?
No, Bob, it was not my favorite panel, though it was a cute moment because it shows that Supergirl is still a little alien and excitable.
She's very excitable. Now, Matt, I'm going to be careful with this because at first I thought I was maybe, when reading this annual, I was, is there sexual tension between Batgirl and Supergirl? And I didn't want to be like a pervert about it. They're young, affectionate women. That's fine. Then by the time we get to on page 13, that Supergirl is literally holding Batgirl up by her pants. At that point, I had to be like, okay, I don't think I'm overreading this. They're going for some sexual tension between these two characters.
Bob, is that her pants or her cape?
Oh, damn.
It is her trunks. It even shows her, watch my pants. You're giving me a wedgie. Oh, I didn't even catch that. Yeah, Bob, you're not wrong here. At first, I was like, Bob's being stupid, but at least in this issue, for sure, there's a lot of them holding each other. There's at least like 4 or 5 scenes where they're each carrying each other.
A lot of carrying, a lot of hugging.
We end the issue with them all laying out beside each other in the desert.
Another thing that was interesting about this comic, this Batgirl annual, is definitely it's trying, and the Orlando run does this too, but this Batgirl annual maybe does a little more. It's trying to be woke in a 2016, 2017 way. I didn't mind it. They're playing Supergirl as an illegal alien. They use that term, which, yeah, Supergirl is an illegal alien. So, yeah, you should play that up in comics. I agree with that. But there is a weird bit, and I don't think it was meant as a joke. Maybe it was meant as a joke, and I didn't register it as a joke. But Supergirl calls Batgirl racist for asking if she does mind melds, which I think this is a little too.
It was meant to be a joke, but at the same time, it just wasn't funny enough. In the next issue, she has a mind meld with this thing.
That's a good point.
Batgirl's not even wrong in the grand scheme of things.
We've already talked that there's sexual tension between Supergirl and Batgirl in this issue. A lot of hugging, a lot of carrying, a wedgie. But also, there's a weird thing in this issue where people keep touching Supergirl's chest. Batgirl does it once, then the villain does it on page 23. The villain is doing some sort of mind meld or something, and it's just grabbing Supergirl's boob, basically.
Go back on page 20, Bob. Even the dude they're rescuing is grabbing her boobs. When her piggyback ride.
All this awkwardness aside, Matt, what was your favorite panel of this issue?
Bob, I focus primarily on the actual writing and the dialogue, unlike you, who was all up in the sexiness.
I'm the pervert here, not you.
Bob, on page 26, they're talking about their passwords that they use for their phone or something, and Batgirl is suggesting different passwords for Supergirl's phone, and they just crack me up. And the reason I like the scene is because my actual password is something similar to theirs.
That's just begging our dozens of listeners to hack his phone.
Oh yeah, go right ahead, folks. But the Supergirl is Supergirl. It's SUP3RGI1RL. Or spelling out heat vision is H34TV I5I10N. I like the way they did that. That's how passwords work now, and it's so sad that's what we've reached.
I will say we've had some critical things to say about the writing and the art in this issue, but Supergirl's response to Batgirl's password suggestion of being whatever, but with a 4 instead of an A and 3s instead of E's, that made me laugh. It's easy, but it made me laugh.
Overall, the annual, it was weird.
The weirdness aside, I think I liked it more than you. And I should say, Hope Larson wrote the annual. I think she's the one writing the DC Rebirth Batgirl series, which would make sense. And then Anake Miranda is the artist. We're then going back to the Supergirl Rebirth series where Steve Orlando is our writer. And for issue 7 and 8, we've got as a fill-in artist, Matthias Bergara. Matt, going into issue 7, it's called Mission Mind. And did you catch the Dr. Double X reference early in the comic?
They had mentioned Dr. Simon X. It's an obscure Batman villain, right?
More of a, I think, Silver Age and Bronze Age villain, and they phased him out before we started reading. I don't think we have any strong nostalgia.
When I read the notes, I thought you said Double X.
Oh, the demonic clone is Superman and Superboy. To defend Dr. Double X, I think he predates Double X. Double X was introduced in Kirby's early 70s run on Jimmy Olsen, whereas I think Dr. Double X is a weird 1950s Batman villain.
He didn't even break out during Nightfall, Bob, so he's pretty
But he did break out during the template for Nightfall, Batman 400.
The old school Nightfall.
My favorite panel in issue number 7 is on page 34. And we've got a white lit Supergirl on a black panel. That was a really cool image.
Anytime they do this, it's cool. Jack Kirby did this in something that we read not too long ago.
Probably Fantastic Four.
I'm trying to remember what specifically
Either
cool.
Negative Zone or Galactus.
My favorite panel comes a little later when she's trying to mind meld with this werewolf guy she met in the other issue. At one point, she's in his head and she realizes that these are all incarnations of hope or something. So she pulls down his fur and he has the Superman symbol on him. Which
she has a really funny reaction to it, too.
If you're not paying close attention to what's going on, it's weird that she pulls the fur aside. Then on the next page, you have this scary image of 3 or 4 of them coming at her. Inside this werewolf's brain's crazy, Bob.
Another little small detail in issue number 7 is that we have the tradition that a green comet is a bad Kryptonian omen. That makes me chuckle. Then we get the cliffhanger, which was also my guess at your favorite panel, Matt, which was obviously proved wrong, which is a very sinister looking Superman in the shadows shows up to talk. It was a funny fake out because they play it at the end of this issue. Oh, Superman is going to fight Supergirl. He's going to give her a stern talking to. Then, of course, the next issue is wholesome family hangout issue of Supergirl and the Kent. So that's issue number 8, Family of Tomorrow.
It's a cop-out, but maybe want to see what happened next, so I'll give Orlando that.
If you say cop-out, I say fake-out. It's pretty well done.
Orlando, or it made me want to go to the next issue. What really made me want to go to the next issue, Bob, was who was on the cover.
Who was on the cover, Matt?
I had a huge pop for Emerald Empress with her big old eyeball. We have been talking about Emerald Empress in Legion of Superheroes.
You get to see not just the Emerald Empress, but also the Emerald Eye of Ekron. Really, it is a hugely crowded cover because it's not just Superman and Supergirl. And the Emerald Eye and the Emerald Empress, but Batgirl is skulking around in the bottom of the cover too.
And there's a full air conditioning unit from the top of a building.
How often do you see those? So, Matt, in issue number 8, Family of Tomorrow, Superman has come to visit Supergirl because it's the Kryptonian Day of Truth, and this turns out fine. But does it seem like maybe, okay, you have a Day of the Truth holiday where you can only tell the truth? Maybe that's not the day to connect with the long-lost family. Maybe you do it on some other day. Am I correct?
That's the day you go black out. You just go lock yourself in a room by yourself. So it's awkward. I feel Superman set Supergirl up for this because he was trying to get information or something.
The fight with the Emerald Empress is fun. We were both excited to see her because we covered the Legion of Superheroes cartoon with Strange New Worlds on this podcast. I forgot that the Emerald Eye of Ekron is magic, therefore it works well on Kryptonians.
Hey, get that magic. But don't forget, Bob, iron stops magic. Did you know that?
I do know that because the Fae don't like iron. My guess that your favorite panel came on page 59, and this is Earl is doing her glasses trick for Superman's son, John Kent. I thought you might find that fun.
It was pretty cool. My actual favorite panel was the next page, Bob, after that, where Supergirl sees a picture of young Jonathan Kent. And for those of you who are not in the know, Jonathan Kent is Superman and Lois Lane's son, who plays a pretty big part now in the comic books. He's been around for a while, even though with my memory, I feel it was yesterday he was introduced.
But yeah, he's been around for 10 or so years.
Anyway, in the picture, she's looking at a picture of Jonathan Kent, and she reminds her of his father because she took care of Clark when he was that age. So that was a sweet moment and a good character moment for her.
That's something I think they do also do in the new 52 Supergirl, which is something brought up reviewers bringing up, and I got angry and defensive about. I'm right to be angry and defensive about it. I did that last episode, but that also is something that they play up in the new 52 Supergirl, is that it's weird for Supergirl to now be the teenage cousin to the baby she used to babysit.
Superman's aged.
As we skip ahead, we get to on 62, we get the return of something I think is from the late 70s or the early 80s. I think you call it the Supermobile. Do you have any nostalgia for this thing?
No, this thing was from the Kenner line of toys, the Superpowers line. They made
So that would be
something
late
like
70s?
it, late 70s, early 80s in that era, at some point, and they made a bunch of little vehicles, and this was one of them. It's not something I ever had.
I will say I'm not nostalgic for it in the sense that I strongly like seeing it, but I do remember buying some early 80s comics when we were kids and seeing ads for this toy in the early 80s comics. And nostalgia is too strong because I don't have any emotional attachment to it, but it is just a funny little bit of recognition to see it.
In the image, I had to look at this multiple times because I guess I'm stupid, but it looked like Superman's throwing the spaceship to the moon where Supergirl's at. They're playing catch with the spaceship.
Oh, that's what they're doing.
Okay, oh, you didn't know either. Okay, good. I don't feel so bad. I thought they were moving her in or something. I didn't know what was going on. I was so confused. Yeah, they're just playing catch with a spaceship.
Wild. And I guess I should have noted my favorite panel was a couple pages before this where we find out that Lois has bugged the secret room at Catco where Cat Grant is plotting against Lois, which I think is just a joke, but I'm not sure if it's a joke. Either way, it makes me laugh. Matt, speaking of things that confuse me, I didn't want to talk about this, but do you want to talk about the double splash page where they explain New 52 and Post-Crisis Superman?
This is my guess at your favorite panel, Bob.
Literal.
They go into detail about the New 52 Superman, and if you have not kept up with any of this, I am at a loss. I didn't know any of this was going on, really. Nick Selpidlik's involved somehow. There were two Supermen. One's the New 52, one's the new one. They fought each other, maybe. They didn't fight. They combined. I don't know what. All I know is the New 52 Superman had a full red belt and boots. And now the Superman we have now has a red belt. Oh, and he's got a kid now. That's about it. His son's.
So let me try to explain this a little more. I might be wrong about this, listeners, so take this with a grain of salt. I think this is explaining the end of the New 52. At the end of the New 52, you're confronted with the post-crisis Superman who's been hanging out in disguise with Lois Lane and raising young John, right? You have New 52 Superman die and post-crisis Superman replace New 52 Superman. So that happens at the end of the New 52. That sets up Superman Rebirth. Then fairly early in Rebirth Superman, you have a weird crossover, which is, I think, where Mr. Mxyzptlk gets involved, and they resurrect the New 52 Superman, then they combine him or merge him with the post-crisis Superman. That's what this is doing, is that it's explaining both the end of the New 52 Superman, but also this recent crossover that would have just happened a couple months before this, where they needlessly combine the two Supermen. I think it's what. Does that make sense, Matt?
Oh, that makes perfect sense, Bob.
I don't know if this trips your nostalgia at all, but the way they're drawing the two Supermen on this splash page in page 63 in issue 8 of Rebirth, they're doing red energy around one and blue energy around the other. They're a little bit referencing that famous Silver Age Superman Red, Superman Blue, which is a very good story and worth reading. Then the thing that would more trip Matt in my nostalgia is they're also referencing the 90s ongoing plot with Superman Red and Superman Blue and Energy Superman, right?
The color schemes there, the electricity. There's a lot of revisiting things from the 90s, Bob, in these comic books we've been covering.
Listeners, I hope I'm saying this right, but on the next page, the page after the page splash, you've got menacing Superman. Do you know who that is, Matt? They don't explain it here.
Is that not Spectre?
It looks like Spectre, but no.
Who is it?
So correct me if I'm wrong, or listeners, I might be, my memory of Rebirth Superman is thin, but there's an ongoing villain in Rebirth Superman named Mr. Oz, who is spying on and sending villains after Superman early in Rebirth. And do you know who Mr. Oz is revealed to be?
Lex Luthor?
Nope. Jor-El.
Jor-El? What?
Yeah.
Jor-El's alive?
Jor-El was the big mystery villain of Superman Rebirth, which was wild because it was happening at the same time that Tom King was bringing back Flashpoint Batman, Thomas Wayne, as a villain in his run. And so in Rebirth,
all their dads could hang out for Father's Day. Awesome. A little barbecue.
Being menaced by all their evil fathers. Matt, you trapped me into explaining awful New 52 and Rebirth Superman stories that I did not want to explain, and maybe I explained them wrong and the listeners can make fun of me. But regardless, the cliffhanger for issue number 8 is that we find out Batgirl has been spying on both Supergirl and now Cat Grant. That moves us into the actual title story of this trade, which is 3 parts, Escape from the Phantom Zone. We're moving into issue number 9, Escape from the Phantom Zone Part 1. We've got Brian Ching back on art. He did the art for the first 6 issues of the Rebirth series. And then, Matt, I wanted to start off by asking, early in issue 9, we get a reference to Mammoth City. I've never heard of Mammoth City. Do you know what Mammoth City is?
That's where Plastic Man lives, Bob.
Oh, I did not know that. I wonder if that's a new thing or if that's an established thing in Plastic Man. I have no idea. I'll have to ask Noah. He was reading some Golden Age Plastic Man wild. Matt, we have a disappointing appearance on page 76. We have Magog, who you may remember as the villain from Kingdom Come, one of the villains from Kingdom Come. But when he shows up, he has a scepter. And my first thought when seeing the scepter was, oh, is that Stargirl's cosmic rod? I was wondering because I think Stargirl was coming on the DC network around this time. And I was, are they trying to go for a Supergirl Stargirl crossover? But no, much worse than Stargirl. It's Magog, Matt.
My first thought on Sam Magog was just a vomit. I don't like this character. I've never liked this character. I didn't like him in Kingdom Come. I didn't like him in Kingdom Come 2 Electric Boogaloo. I didn't like him in anything he shows up in.
You liked him when they brought him back in the Justice Society and revealed he was Franklin Delano Roosevelt's grandson?
No, I'm good with that.
You're telling me you didn't read the solo Magog comic that they put out?
No, I didn't read the solo Magog comic. I wish Magog would go away. I think Magog could be replaced by any other character.
I agree with you, Matt. Magog's the worst, and do like to think that low-key the reason they had to reboot the entire DC universe was the Magog solo series. I never actually read it. Maybe it's actually really good, but somehow I doubt it.
It's not good. I'm sure it's not. This Magog even has the stupid pouches from the 90s, too. He's just stuck there.
In fairness, Magog has to look like he's from the 90s. That's the whole deal.
Yeah, it's this whole deal. All right, Bob. So, what was your favorite panel in this particular issue?
My favorite panel was the splash page of Batgirl on page 80, especially I like the yellow inside of her cape, and we get that on full display. And you'll notice that's not what Supergirl was grabbing her by, Matt. It wasn't that yellow cape.
No, it wasn't that yellow cape. And I do want to point out, too, Bob, that my favorite panel is when Magog gets his comeuppings from Supergirl and she snaps in his ear.
Yeah. Is that your favorite discipline tactic for wayward students, Matt? You snap right next to their ear?
No, I don't do that. That would not be nice. Wouldn't do that to children.
But It's much more effective when Supergirl has super strength and she does it right next to your ear, right?
True. Just get that loud snap.
Magog really does look like what if Cable was a Satanist, doesn't he?
Yeah. So, Bob, we're going to get ourselves into the Phantom Zone somehow. This is where
Yeah,
this
our big
comic book
cliffhanger.
just goes wonky.
Big cliffhanger here is we got the king of the Phantom Zone, Zadu, really stoked that both Batgirl and Supergirl are in the zone. I don't remember that much about Zadu, but he's a Silver Age villain, and I believe Grant Morrison retooled him a little bit as the king of the Phantom Zone for the Action Comics New 52. Moving into Escape from the Phantom Zone Part 2, that's issue number 10 of the Rebirth Supergirl series. My favorite panel is on 96, and that is Zod unveiling his pirate disguise and telling Supergirl and Batgirl he has use for their meats. I thought that was pretty fun. And then my guess at your favorite panel, Matt, was going to be 2 pages later. Did I get it right?
You are correct, Bob. She uses photographic memory to recite the Kryptonian
Is she, Matt?
Batgirl.
Did you remember that Batgirl had a photographic memory?
I actually did, surprisingly. She and Tim both, I believe.
I always forget she does. It's always a pleasant surprise when a comic brings up either's photographic memory, and I'm like, oh yeah, they do.
That's why we
Well,
can't be superheroes, Bob.
In our cliffhanger, Matt, Gale, who you may remember from that Batgirl annual, which is why you needed to include the Batgirl annual in this
Yep.
collection. Supergirl is trying to rescue Gale, and Gale is in a purple dragon form. Honestly, visually, it reminds me of some of the stuff that would come in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I'm not saying Brian Ching's art is as good as the Bill Casevely's art in Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, but I could see Bill Casevely maybe took a little bit of inspiration from this arc for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow.
So what you're saying is there's dragons in both comics.
There's cosmic dragons.
Cosmic
strange
dragons in both
dimensions.
comics.
Trippy dragons, man.
Trippy dragons. Can't have a Supergirl comic without a trippy dragon.
It's not having fun in the Phantom Zone, so we'll plunge on into the final issue of Escape from the Phantom Zone as Matt also tries to escape from the Phantom Zone. That's part 3, issue number 11. Matt, my favorite panel in this is Zah saying ramming speed. I thought that was really funny. And later we get a sick one-liner from him that he answers to no one but his own morbid whimsy. And that made me laugh as somebody who also responds to his own morbid whimsy.
So, Bob, I want to point out something here. There not only were there flying dragons in the Phantom Zone, but there's also space pirates, right?
Yeah.
So we've seen flying dragons and space pirates. Maybe
Yeah,
you got to have pirates for
I think-
Supergirl too.
I hope James Gunn takes notes and has pirates in the movie, Matt.
You need pirates and dragons.
Pirates and dragons. Those are the essentials for a good Supergirl run, we've discovered.
My favorite panel in issue 11, though, comes at the very end. Because, like you said, I didn't care
Yeah.
for the Phantom Zone. And we were going to talk about the Phantom Zone, I promise. But let's get through the issues, though. My favorite panel in this issue was when Cat Grant shoots Supergirl with a kryptonite gun at the end. Because I want to know what happens next.
Matt is riveted for volume 3, which we will cover next week, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get to that, Matt, I wanted to ask you, and I think I know from the tone of your voice, but do you prefer Reign of the Cyborg Superman or do you prefer Escape from the Phantom Zone as collection?
Bob, I prefer Reign of the Cyborg Superman 100 times more than Escape from the Phantom Zone.
Matt, why are you so down on Escape from the Phantom?
I followed Reign way better. It's pretty straightforward, easy to follow. It kept me interested. There were a couple of things here and there where I was like, okay, like you said, New 52 crap that you would have had to read stuff to know what it's about. That's fine. I'm good with that. But getting into this issue, it's the way the Phantom Zone is portrayed is not the way that I remember the Phantom Zone or the way I like the Phantom Zone. My understanding of the Phantom Zone is they can view everything. They're ghosts. They
Yeah,
can't
that's
interact with
usually
anything. They can't touch anything. They're just there. They're just spirits. They have to watch the world go by without any real interaction. Here, the Phantom Zone's this mythical land with freaking buildings and space pirates, and you can't die, but you can be tortured and boiled alive, and your matter can be transferred, but you can't be killed. I didn't like that. I don't want it to be a negative zone. I want it to just be a void. Disconnected
Yeah,
souls.
here it almost just treats the Phantom Zone, fantasy land or parallel dimension, parallel universe.
Correct.
It didn't bother me that much. I thought it was fun and was, the setting for some good adventure type stuff. You have a point, but it didn't bother me much. I guess my defense for why I like this trade better than Reign of the Cyborg Superman is I think Reign of the Cyborg Superman was well done, and I don't think it dragged that much. But man, it was fairly brutally long. at 7 issues for a single story that was not that complicated. Again, Orlando did it well, and he did a good job of, like you were observing, escalating the cliffhangers in Reign of the Cyborg Supermen. So I'm not saying that trade is terrible or anything, but it felt a little needlessly long, whereas I appreciated that in this trade we got more or less 3 different stories, even though they were, especially the first one and the third one, were interconnected. We got 3 different stories. They were all pretty short, an annual, a 2-parter, a 3-parter. It moved through it at a good clip. But I can maybe see where you also might be a little frustrated that there was all this setup in the first trade that then is basically irrelevant to the second.
Then we shoe in Batgirl too.
See it as a shoe in, but I see what
It's all right, Bob. We can disagree.
we can agree to disagree on this one.
Shut up with that shit.
Unlike those reviewers who say that, oh, this is too derivative of New 52 Supergirl, I can't agree to disagree with them. I respect you, Matt. I don't respect anonymous people.
So the next trade, Bob, am I going to be surprised by why Cat Grant is shooting Supergirl?
To be honest, Matt, I do not remember. It's been years since I've read these, close to. I don't remember. We're going to cover Supergirl Volume 3, Girl of No Tomorrow next. I can't remember what's going on or why Cat's shooting Supergirl. I'll be excited to learn. And we'll also wrap out the Steve Orlando run with Volume 4 in plain sight. So listeners, join us for that on Uncanny Treks. I'm Bob in Cascadia. That's Matt in the Southland. And have a great night, everybody.
Thanks for listening.